Here's another scenario to consider. How often do you check whether every device on your network meets the security standards? What if there is a non-compliant device silently putting your whole network under the risk? Because maintaining a secure and a compliant organization is very important given today's evolving cyber threat landscape. This is where network access control comes to the picture. So network access control allows you to set up a system quarantine policy that controls the devices that can access your network and data. The concept is pretty simple. If the system is compliant, meaning it meets all the security requirements, it is allowed in. But if it is non-compliant, for example, it's missing any patches or any critical service not running in the endpoints, it can be either audited or completely blocked. So why does this matter? Because infected or vulnerable systems roaming inside the network can create serious security gaps and may leave your business hanging on a thread. So quarantining non-compliant devices can let you catch your problem earlier, stop the threats before they spread, and keep your businesses very secure. So we'll see there are two main ways how you can enforce a compliance here. I choose a custom group of endpoints where I want to check, where I want to audit. Let's say demo test group. So in our case, our conditions So for this, our conditions is machines with the EDR service down and endpoints with the critical severity patches missing for more than 30 days. I give the conditions here, critical patches missing for more than 30 days. And I also mention one of the critical service not running. EDR service not running. Let's explore the options. We have two options, audit only and quarantine. On choosing audit only, this will audit the systems to check if they meet the security standards. It combs through the network to identify issues earlier so you can fix them before they become serious threats. Here we have mentioned EDR service, and when it's not running, it will be considered as non-compliant, and also the critical patches. And second, we have quarantine systems that are seriously out of compliance, such as those with critical vulnerabilities or any other serious infections. So quarantining isolates these devices, preventing them from accessing other sensitive data or spreading the infection across the other systems. So you can also choose to block the whole network access or block only in certain intranet range or block only for certain custom IP or domain. And then you can create it. So with Endpoint Central's network access control capabilities, you gain full control and visibility to ensure that only trusted and compliant devices can access the critical resources. As we continue our discussion on protecting sensitive data, here's another scenario to consider. What happens if a device gets lost or stolen? With so many employees working remotely and taking laptops to coffee shops, workations, and co-working spaces, the risk of loss is very real. So how confident are you that your data would stay safe in such situations? So how do you protect when the device is no longer under your control? This is where BitLocker encryption for Windows machines become critical. We have a dedicated module in Endpoint Central to manage BitLockers across Windows machines. So let's be honest, managing BitLocker across a large number of endpoints can be complicated. Without a centralized solution, IT teams struggle to enforce policy or monitor the encryption status and to securely store the recovery keys. This is where Endpoint Central steps in. So from the Endpoint Central server, you can encrypt all the devices, whether it's TPM machines or even non-TPM machines, or even the workgroup devices. And here's the best part. You can deploy encryption policies remotely, supporting the users who work from home or outside the corporate network. Let's say a user forgets their password and gets locked out. You may see a blue screen like this. And in such cases, no worries, because as recovery keys are securely stored on the server, You can quickly retrieve the recovery keys and restore the access without any hassle. You can also enable this periodic recovery key option or the periodic recovery key option to update the keys in the definite intervals to reduce the risk of unauthorized use of the same key. And for the devices which are a part of Active Directory, recovery keys are automatically updated in both the directory and in the Endpoint Central console, Endpoint Central server. Here's another key highlight. So even if the device is broken, the data can still be recovered by removing the drive and connecting it to another machine and using the recovery key stored on the server by contacting the sysadmin. So no matter wherever your devices travel or whatever happens to them, BitLocker encryption combined with Endpoint Central centralized management, IT teams can confidently secure data, recover devices quickly, and maintain the business continuity even when devices go missing or get damaged. Now let's talk about Mac OS devices. We also support file vault encryption for Mac devices, which is managed through the MDM module of the Endpoint Central suite. So simply go to the MDM module, create a profile for the Mac OS devices, and under that, you will find, let's name the profile as 76074, and you can find the file vault encryption. So here, you have three ways to encrypt the Mac devices. First, using a personal recovery key. When file vault is enabled, a personal recovery key is generated for the user. If they forget their password, they can use this key to decrypt and regain the access back. So since it's unique, it will prevent any unauthorized use. And then we have institutional recovery key or IRK. So organizations can use a single key or a certificate to encrypt all the Mac systems in an organization. So here, IT teams will get a centralized way to manage the decryption whenever they need it. And third, you can use both personal and institutional recovery keys. This will allow users to decrypt their data with their personal key, or admins can assist using the institutional recovery key. You may wonder, can I also manage the recovery key lifecycle for Mac devices just like BitLocker? Yes. With Endpoint Central, you can manage file vault recovery keys right from the console. So whether you need to update a key after an employee leaves or say if a key is compromised, you can do it seamlessly from the MDM module. So this will ensure that the keys cannot be used again, so keeping your data very secure. So with Endpoint Central, you get full control over file vault encryption on Mac devices, so keeping both the user and organizational data very safe. And dear participants, this webinar is kept very concise due to time constraints, and this will cover only the key features of Endpoint Central's security features. And if you'd like a personalized demo to explore the solution in depth, please feel free to drop your business email address in the chat, and our team will be happy to get in touch with you. Next up, we have is mobile threat defense. When we talk about endpoint security, it is easy to focus on desktops and laptops. But what about the mobile devices? They are everywhere. Your team uses BYODs or corporate devices and tablets to access the corporate data on the go. So ignoring mobile security is no longer an option. So here's a common scenario to consider. As an admin, you notice your employees' mobile devices have weaker password strength. That's a red flag because it can increase the risk of data breaches. But how do you keep track of all these devices and make sure they stay secure? This is where Endpoint Central's integration with Checkpoint Harmony makes a real difference. So with Checkpoint Harmony, devices are automatically classified based on their risk levels: low, medium, or high. So for example, let's consider an instance: an Android device with weaker password strength might be tagged as high risk device, from the same MDM module. You can go to the devices and check for the devices integrated with checkpoint harmony. As you can see here, we have few device groups integrated with checkpoint harmony based on their risk severity. And here you see there's one device tagged with a checkpoint harmony as high risk device. And on checking, you can find that this device has a weaker password. It has a weaker password strength. The best part about the Endpoint Central is that when you spot a device that is out of compliance based on the categories which you have configured, you don't have to jump between different tools. You can immediately create a policy from the Endpoint Central to update the OS or enforce the other security measures. So once you are giving all the categories in the checkpoint harmony console, this data will be directly synced into the Endpoint Central. So now from a single console, you can see the security status of every mobile device, as I showed here. So this setup gives you full control over mobile security, helping you identify risks quickly and also to take action, all without adding any complexity to your workflow. Next, we are going to explore about geofencing, one of the notable